And we are live. Welcome to the Orphans of Avraham. Join us on Facebook at the Orphans of Avraham. You can also email me at jamestheidolsmasher@gmail.com. We do this every Thursday. It's a round table, laid back but serious Torah discussion and all things Torah and Judaism. And tonight we're going to discuss the new Jews, the new and improved Jews. Isn't that great? I'm just kidding. They think they're the new improved Jews. But we're going to put that to rest tonight. In fact, I'd like to go on an idol smashing tirade tonight. We can, of course, talk Parsha and anything Judaism, but we are going anti-missionary, and as you can see from the title of this, yes, Jesus is dead on arrival. He's like dead as a can of Spam. We're not here to attack the Christians because I believe it is the morality and the ethics of the Christian that saves. But Christians are now the most oppressed group in the world. I know anti-Semitism's on the rise here, and they've got the anti-Islam or the Islamophobia soundbite out there. But right now, Christians are taking it hard. They're the most oppressed group in the world. I believe there's a reason for that, and I believe there's also a solution for it. I wouldn't be making this hangout if I didn't care. And John's here with me, and John cares too. And we're not out here we're not here to get your goat. This is not a trolling hangout. We're just going to smash the ever-loving shit out of your religion. And honestly, and it just needs to be done, because while we love our Christian brethren, and I have I'm not taking offense by people being Christian. I just take offense to the religion itself. Absolute offense. And I don't express that because I'm a nice guy. Well, tonight, I'm a nice guy. I've got my Sam Adams Boston Lager, and I'm waiting from John over there. He's got some good wine. He's going to say a bracha. John, how are we doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing excellent, my man. How am I coming in with the microphone? Clear?
Little low, but you're clear.
A little low, but we're clear. Good, exactly. That's what we need to be. Speak softly, but carry a big stick. Isn't that the way the saying goes, James? Mm-hmm. That's good old Teddy Roosevelt. James, is getting called off. You got to go do something real quick?
Oh, no. My wife and kid are working in the yard, and they looked in the window and said, "Hi, Daddy."
Oh, that's very beautiful. Give him a little heart, too. I want to second that to James. I'm not here to hate on anyone. I'm not a hateful person. I'm not like a bigot or anything, but it gets to the point where enough's enough. You know what I mean? For 2,000 years, well, maybe not that long, but for quite a long time, Christians have been, taking out Jews left, right, and center, being so-called not accepting their Messiah. That's us stupid Jews. We just can't accept our own Messiah. We're blind. That's we don't have the glasses, but you know what I'm saying. But what I'm not blind to is saying, believing in God and believing in the world of God. And this also, I want to also apply this to people who, just because you speak some Hebrew, right? Just because you call Jesus Yeshua, or you say, "Oh, I love Torah of Hashem," but then you go off to quote the book of Matthew, right? You know what I mean? That you're still a Christian in my book, okay? Black Hebrew Israelites, Christian. Hebrew roots, Christian. Messianic Jews, Christian. Okay, they're not Jewish, they're not Hebrew, they're not Israelites. Just because you have the term Hebrew in your group name or Israelite doesn't make you anywhere near kosher. So what we're going to do is we're going to say a bracha on a kosher wine, and I love this wine, Tishbi. This is an excellent wine. Mamushal, so that means it's not cooked, and I like non-cooked wine over cooked wine. I'm sorry, I'm a bigot that way. I think it tastes better. Technically speaking, I'm not supposed to handle this myself because a non-Jew isn't supposed to handle Jewish wine. And James is going to drink a Samuel Adams Don't forget to say a blessing on the Samuel Adams before you drink it. Shia Kol Niyaya Bidvaro. Wine is a different blessing. It's Bere Pri Hagafen, he who creates the vine. Beer is he who creates everything. So it's a little bit of a different blessing. I only have a big cup like I'm in college, the beer pong cups. So could you imagine on Shabbos making a kiddush on a big cup like this? Oh man, imagine that. I'm gonna be walking around with my head like a dreidel. So let's say a blessing for all good things, for a good year. God will provide. God will give. We're in the midst of the Omar. We're leaving Egypt. We're on the way to Sinai. That's why we count the Omar. God says count the weeks. So that's what we're doing. We're counting the days to give in the Torah, right? So let's say. So let's all pray. Let's all say Amen. James, you want to go first? Shia Kol Niyaya Bidvaro. That's your blessing.
Shia Kol Niyaya Benno.
Amen. Barakatah Anaya Hinu Malach Kolam B'rei Pri Hagafim.
Amen.
And God will grant us all our desires, and God will do right by everyone. So, yeah, it's not that like James said beautifully. It's not that we hate Christians; it's the idol.
And it's
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you brought up the Noahides. I didn't get to listen to all of it because I was, of course, at work today. I'm on your channel. You're doing a video, and I remember when the Noahide thing first started coming around, like 10 years ago or something like that. And there were Jews who were very, very, very concerned about teaching people this. This is a while back. This was when it was starting to become a hip thing. And they were right, because suddenly you started getting Baptist Noahide web pages pop up and the Mormon Noahide web page, and everybody became a Noahide. And so, it didn't stick around, really, I think, because enough people were able to kind of, put them in their place. But it was a thing. Anybody could become Noahide, and yet, so yeah, I found that's another weakness in the code. Another weakness, just a weakness in keeping that in that only, or the word Noahide. It was too easy for other people to pick up and say, well, I'm a Noahide too.
Yeah, it's like the whole Hebrew thing, It's like what I was saying earlier. There are people that call themselves Black Hebrew Israelites. There's people that call them Hebrew roots. Messianic Jews. They think because they use the term Hebrew or the term Jewish, like that somehow means something. Like everyone's clamoring for the birthright, and that's exactly what it is. It's a birthright, and that's what's beautiful about it. That it does tear down these boundaries. That there are no it belongs to this group, or it belongs to this group or that group, and that's sort of like they missed the point, right? You have these Black Hebrew Israelites who are screaming on the top of the lungs, "Kill the white man," because it doesn't belong to them. Or they have Hebrew roots people who say, we complete it because we have Yeshua, or you know what I'm saying, or it's us because we're the Hebrew Messianic Jews and we're the Jews and we just continue it. It's like, okay, you got the little kernel there, you got that little bit, like you grab onto the Torah, but then you got all these other things that you know what I'm saying? No different than the Muslims, no different than the Mormons. This idea that you're the chosen group, or and everyone else is the Gentile, right? One of my big favorite shows was Big Love, the Mormon hit show. James brought up the Mormon Noahides, and during the show, the prophet, he would refer to the non-Mormons as goyim. They use that term in the show. I don't believe it or not. They use that. We're Hebrew, and they're the goyim. Don't go there. They're the goyim. It's just weird. It's like you're missing the point, and the Jews are to blame to this too, because they do the shit too. Everyone's to blame here. But there's a distinction to be made, though. At the end of the day, you either You either play by the rules or you don't play by the rules. You can't pick and choose the things that you want to believe in. It doesn't work that way. Even though it sounds nice, right? Oh, oh, what's it? What did James just hold up? Is he smoking a little
Tobacco. And I put that up there so when people saw that because I roll my own, they won't think that I'm over here getting stoned.
Hey, to each his own. Want to smoke a little something. That's okay.
Keep going. You're onto something.
No, I lost my train of thought. I've been drinking, and you're smoking, and we're having fun, and just the point is just everyone received Torah at Sinai, and that's the beautiful thing about it all, and that's the thing. That's the key. Everyone. There is no group boundary. So when you say Noahide Mormons, it's like, well, what does that exactly mean? Or you know what I'm saying? It's like you believe in a covenant that's from Noah, and then you also believe that what Joseph Smith made a new covenant from another covenant, right? There's 3 covenants there. There's the Noah covenant, the Jesus covenant, and the Joseph Smith covenant. Who said what the who? It's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. He went that way, George. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you don't get to call yourself Jewish. It's not that easy. In any other religious sense, I mean, yeah, my religion, if I had to pick, which one do you like? I could easily say Judaism, but that doesn't make me Jewish. You don't get to, you don't get to just be Jewish. And we get that a lot. I've gotten that a lot lately. Well, I mean, we had a gentleman in here, lovely man. I forgot his name. Well, I've already done all the mitzvot. I've already completed. I consider myself a completed Jew. Like, no, you're not a completed Jew. Even Jews aren't completed Jews. That's the point. Completed Jew. That's just, it's preposterous. You have to make stuff up to keep that guy around. You have to go through mental gymnastics. You're not taking the shortest path that you choose. I mean, God puts enough mazes in our path as it is. And it's not like this isn't the only religion that does it. I mean, there's plenty of goofy stuff. Even in Judaism, they've got some crazy notions here and there. But by and large, man, you don't get to choose like that. You don't get to say it. And it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous. I think the whole thing is dangerous. You wonder why you're getting the flack you're getting. You wonder why your churches are depleting. You wonder why atheism is on the rise. Secularism is on the rise. Don't look at yourself. Oh, it can't be what we're producing here. It can't be this religion. It can't be that we're fighting God. And that's what you're doing. You're trying to claim that you're God's wife is what you're doing. And that's not you. It will never be you, ever, until you start keeping the mitzvot and the Jewish people accept you. That's the whole thing. It's a nation. I mean, I'm not exactly accepted with it. I don't go to a synagogue all the time, but there's not a lot of room there, and I would know what to do. I don't just study Hebrew for the sake of, oh, now I can claim, or I know I'm separate from the Jewish people, and that's okay. I don't have to be chosen. I don't know if I ever want to be chosen. I'm fine with that. You don't have to, you can't do that. Black Hebrew Israelites, golly, there's a whole bunch of people that need a good swift kick in the groin. And I'm always busy when I see them too. I have no time to just go up and start groin kicking them. I'm always in a hurry. I got better things to do. One of these days, I want to be in a groin kicking mood.
So where you want to start first? I mean, we have so many issues here about J.C. Christianity in particular. Which one you want to tackle first? The belief that God can be a man. I mean, where do you want to start at, James? Want to go through every pinpoint we can do, bullet point.
I think idolatry is a huge thing. We've skirted around the issue a lot lately, I think, in here.
Right. I got a little. Asha Mesa didn't really like my answer. I was on his show Monday night, and I said, you know what? In a way, I said to him flat out, I said, being an atheist is better than being a Christian. At least at least you're not an idol worshiper. But then he gives me this sorry sack answer that, well, atheists just make themselves God. You know what? To refute that point is that, okay, yeah, someone may think themselves as God. Okay, the Pharaoh, right? I don't know this Elohim. I'm God, right? Okay, fair enough. That's also a shitty thing to do. Obviously, you can't make yourself into God. But you know what? It's on a much more subtle, on a much more lower scale. I would say to an atheist who believes that he came from pond scum and that he somehow, through the miracle of evolution, became the God that he is. At least he's not hardy enough to think that a supernatural being can actually become flesh and die for your sins. So I think it's a twofold issue. I think it's not necessarily being the God, but the thing that go with it. The Christian then takes it to the next level. Well, that God became flesh, that God died, that God is our Savior, He's resurrected. Only through Him you can be saved. So you can't really say it's even, James, if that makes any sense. I rather much take an atheist who would deny the existence of God, who thinks He is God, than someone who's going to come to me and run their mouth to me saying that I don't know who my God is, I don't know my Savior, and I deny the truth, and J.C. is the God in flesh that I have to believe it. You get what I'm saying, James? Not exactly equal. The atheist isn't pushing on me. Well, I have to accept him as God, right? I don't have to do that. He's just saying, oh, whatever. I don't believe in gods. He's not telling me that I can't have to believe in gods. So to me, it's a big issue.
The atheist let's see what the atheist wouldn't do that's traditionally been done in Christianity for the past 1,500 years. They won't be worshiping idols in the flesh, like actually making a sculpture of a god and bowing to it. They won't even think about praying to an idol, let alone their creator. But they won't worship. They won't talk to the dead. That's a big thing in Christianity, because what you're doing is talking to the dead. When you're praying to Jesus, you're praying to the dead. He's dead. What does Torah? See, these are things that you claim the God of Israel, but then God sets up a standard that you violate. You violate as ritual. You violate as common practice. You see? You see what I'm saying? You're praying to the dead. That's that'll get you stoned in Israel. Thinking that you're healing people with this fake blood and all this movements and all the Mortal Kombat poses, and you see people and they're all affected and they're rolling around the floor and false gods, magic, witchcraft. This is all coming from this one belief. If you let go of this guy, this man that you worship, and accept that God is sovereign, things might change. But you gotta get rid of the Jesus, man. You've got to get rid of Jesus. He's dead. Jesus would tell you the same damn thing if he were alive and came back today. I know it, because that's exactly what the Torah tells us to do. If you're not going to claim the God of Israel, then stop coming into our room and saying that I'm one of you, I'm completed, or I'm Jewish too. I consider myself, I don't have to follow that law, but no. You've got that violation. I mean, heaven and hell. You got shituf, which is actually a violation, even though it's not a harsh one. You have a partnership. If you don't have just God, you've got your Son of God. You got your Holy Spirit. You got your Satan, Lucifer, devil dude. You got three other people besides God, all working equally and succinctly with each other, even when one's the polar opposite. That's the whole point. You've created a polar evil that doesn't exist. And in your mind, and in your children's mind, and in your community's mind, you people are going to go off thinking that there's an equal opposite to the divine. You are the equal opposite to the divine. It's heaven and earth, not heaven and hell. This is it, baby. It's God or bust. There's no other way. There's no other way to go. There is no down. Down is death. Down, dead. You're done. Doesn't matter. Afterlife, schmafterlife. It's a joke. There is no afterlife. There's life. Period. When it's done, it's over. You're praying to the dead. You bring up the dead. You're praying to saints. Some people pray to saints. You're creating witchcraft, thinking you can faith heal people. People can heal themselves by faith. Thank you very much. The fact that they need you is more your fault than theirs. You should be teaching them to heal themselves. How do we heal ourselves? We eat right. We keep Torah. We go by the obvious. The Rambam was a great physician. You know, you don't need none of that. You're deceiving people. And I'm sorry that you're suckered into the Messianic Jew thing. I had James, my buddy James, I hope you're watching, called me at work of all times because he was so fired up about he tuned on to Daystar and saw a guy in a shawl and the kippah and all that. It was a Messianic Jew thing. Daystar is a Christian network named after Lucifer, Daystar, or the King of Babylon. Well, either one. It's what a thing to name your network when you're supposed to be making a tribute to God. But anyway, he's on there and he's like, I don't like, and he was basically going to call me up and tell me how the Jews are screwed. I'm like, nobody believes in that dude. Are you kidding me? He ain't Jew. Don't even bother with that. He's bullshitting you. And there's a guy who dresses up and don't have Hebrew words on the screen, and he pretends that he's a Jew amongst other Jews, teaching them about the Lord Jesus Christ. It's deceitful.
It's it is deceitful. You know, there's a big time YouTuber. I think he has like 1 million followers. It's like a YouTuber called Michael Rood. He does a show called The Rude Awakening. You know this guy?
Mm-mm.
Oh, big time YouTuber. He's a Christian and he dresses up like a Kohen Gadol. No, I do not joke. He has the big beard. He has the bald head, kippah, the fucking chosen chest plate with the little jewels on it, and he's like a messianic. I don't know what he is. Southern Baptist. He's a Christian who pretends he's Jewish. and he's like a fucking 5-star production. I'm not joking, man. Oh, by the way, I dropped an F-bomb. You know, I was reading Asher Mazer's comments, and it's so funny that he had a clip of you, James, and you were talking with him, and you dropped maybe like 2 F-bombs in the video. And the whole video, everyone's talking about, how could a Noahide drop an F-bomb? Oh, he's so ungodly. He's so not Jewish. He's so, you know what? That's what I think about you. Go have a nice life. You know, it's so funny. I mean, you want to talk about eating your own. You know the Bible.
Oh shit! He said the F word. Yeah, fuck off. Don't.
You know the Bible says that the
ungodly. I don't fake it, baby. I know I'm flawed. I'm human. I'd rather talk straight and from my heart, than I would have to soften my words for pally little swats like you. Oh, he's swearing. He's swearing. Is that why no one's showing up? Because he swears? That's the Noahide that swears. He swears and says bad words.
It's nonsense.
You know what I don't say? Yeshua or Jeebus. At least I don't pray to the dead.
Right.
And yeah, you're a Noahide. Good for you. You go hide and you go and have fun on the other side of the Jordan, way over there.
Right. Well, I don't know. I take that back. I don't know what
you for. You're a Noahide. You're already set. You're right up there with Sodom and Gomorrah and Egypt. You're right up there with Amalek and every other religion that followed after Noah.
Yeah. You know these, but you know what? It's not even worth. I don't even know why I brought it up, but it's just funny. I saw that there. It's like I'm like listening to this video. Oh, I'm gonna go leave a comment, and then I see the comments. Who's the guy cursing? Who's this guy cursing? I'm like, well, you said 1 F-bomb in the whole video. Who cares? And then someone leaves.
It's not a curse for one thing. It's not a curse.
Right. They don't know what a curse is. Yeah. A cuss.
Shit.
There's a difference between a curse and cussing. 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 Not cursing. Cursing, like James is casting aspersions on us or something. You know what I mean? Noah. You know what? Noahides get a lot of crap. There's a Christian channel called True News. I don't want to give them a shout out, but they're shitty, whatever. They're hardcore evangelicals, and they think Noahidism is like a Chabad brainwashing cult for New World Order. That's what
heard that.
they think. They think Chabad is taking over the world because Jared Kushner is a Chabadnik, and Trump's daughter goes to Chabad. These are the people that we're supposed to be allies with, right? I mean, these are the people that think that when we die, we're going to burn in hell. These are the people that think when Jesus comes back, we're going to be exterminated by him. Our Savior, we don't know our own Messiah, but when he comes back, and then this is what they believe. We're going to recognize our Messiah when he comes back, the second coming, and then he's going to decapitate us. He's going to cut our heads off. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, their philosophy. It doesn't make any sense. It's either we accept him or he's going to kill us. It's so funny that all of a sudden, Christians are so anti-Muslim. Well, they're so violent. They're so out of control. They kill people. They stone people. Yeah, hello. If you had your way, you'd be killing people too. Don't worry about it. It's like you're J.C.
Witches. If you're not burning witches, you'd be rounding up Indian children and cutting their hair and turning them into Christians.
Right.
Yeah, you'd be doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
The Muslim, I can't stand that. That's another thing that pisses me off about Jesus freaks, and their contempt for Islam.
Yeah.
And you know what? I get, Christians are good folks, but you have their religion says so does yours. A fat load of what's in their religion is in yours too. You just don't like it. That's the part you want to skip over. That's the part you don't want to face. Okay? Huh. Why do I need to keep mitzvot? It's already done for me. At least the Muslim tries, at least they understand the difference between praying to the dead and praying to God. At least the Muslim knows the difference between praying to a man and praying to God. And as far as the blood count goes, Christians top everybody. They top the Muslims, yeah. And so there's karma. There's karma coming back now. Yeah. I'm not here to. I don't want the karma to go. I don't want more Christians in their churches to burn. Don't get me wrong, but you don't. I don't know if you necessarily deserve it by our standards, but something this big. What is God telling us?
I think what's God JC historically, if he did exist, he'd be one of the coolest dudes that I ever would want to hang out with. I dig him. You know what I mean? He just seems like, okay, if it's true, he's like a hippie. He's a hippie Nazir. He's a Nazir. He's a hippie Nazir. I could just imagine him with dreadlocks,
I want some of that magic wine. That's all I want. I want that magic wine that he'd make at the wedding feast. I'd crash that wedding feast.
Right here. This is what he'd be making. He'd be making the magic wine. And, JC wasn't perfect. Matter of fact, he's committed a lot of sins. JC didn't actually live a perfect life. You know what I mean? What's so funny about it, by his own account, let's see, murders a fruit tree, kills animals, throws them off the cliff like a maniac, right? The whole story, he takes demons, puts them in pigs, and throws them off a cliff. I mean, okay, that sounds like a nightmare. That sounds like a
freakish.
It's a little it sounds like a horror movie. To be honest with you, Poltergeist. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have children. He wasn't married. That's a big sin in Judaism.
Can a Nazarite have kids? If he was a Nazarite, like some people say?
And being a Nazarite in itself is technically a sin.
Huh.
Because you're supposed to have wine. You're supposed to have sex. You're supposed to have kids. So he was a Nazir from birth. Maybe that was necessarily his fault, but that in itself means that he wasn't exactly 100%, right? Whatever the say is, what I'm trying to say is he himself was an average dude. He himself was a regular average dude. He wasn't like the what they make him out to be. It's almost like Jesus, the person, is like a regular guy, and then these Christians may make him out to be some lunatic. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, driving. I totally forgot about driving pig. They drove. What he did is he drove him into the sea.
drove him into the sea, right? Just like what the Christians are going to do. What the Christians are going to do to the Jews in the future. They're going to drive them into the sea.
I just want to know what wild hogs were doing in Judea, Samaria, and in that whole area. Why are there a bunch of wild pigs? I didn't know they roamed there. Maybe they do. But why would you bother killing pigs? God never shuns the pig or shames the pig. He says, don't eat it. It's unclean for you, Jew. The rest of us get to eat it. So, what's so evil about, why would you do that to an animal? That's wicked. Killing a fruit tree? There's a prohibition in Torah. You can't do it in time of war. And for a man who says, pick up your sword, you're not allowed to kill a fruit tree just for the sake of killing it. It wasn't in season, and it was producing fruit, and he killed it. Where's in the Torah? Is there anything like that ever? How does that parallel once with anything that came before the Christian Bible? It doesn't anywhere. Never. That's crazy. That's crazy talk right there. I forget about the magic, all the magic and stuff, but yeah, he was a man. He was, he knew it was coming. He did the best he could. He knew the temple was coming down. He did his best to save it, but y'all got to let him go. You're putting a stumbling block before your kids. You're putting a stumbling block before the world. God chose Israel to carry the Torah. God chose Israel to teach the Torah. The Israel's got a dirty job.
Yeah, the Noahide movement to me is almost becoming Christian. I can just I kind of see it like as if it was like what Jesus was doing, trying to get people Torah. And then those people who he was preaching to misabused it. I kind of see it a little bit like the Noahide movement. We're trying to get Torah to the Gentiles. And Jesus missionized only the Gentiles, by the way. All the people that he talked to were non-Jews. That's why the Pharisees always broke his balls. But, the thing is, now we have these Noahides, and they leave comments on Facebook, on my YouTube channel, saying things like, you can never truly convert to Judaism. You can't, no matter how much you try, you can't be a Ger Toshav. There's no such thing as a Ger Toshav. There's no such thing as a Ger Tzaddik. I mean, it's almost like
Noahide.
We're almost like going backwards. It's like we're going backwards, people. We're trying to move forward here. I can just imagine that must have been the hiccup. Is like you're trying to bring these people in, right? You're trying to build the lost sheep of Israel, and that's a big thing. The Talmud says that the lost sheep of Israel are converts, Jews that are born non-Jews that convert to Judaism. They're the lost sheep of Israel. Because what does it mean to be a lost sheep? It means that you don't know who your shepherd is, but then you find your shepherd. It's an allegory of converting. And that's what Jesus says. I come for the lost sheep. I don't come for Jews. I come for the lost sheep. So now you have this sort of the same sort of mentality here. We got people who are promoting the Noahide movement, I think in earnest. I think there's a lot of people that started the Noahide thing, and they meant well, and they mean well, and they were loving God, and they were loving Torah, and they truly wanted to bring people Torah. But now we have people now who profit off of it. I mean, we have a goy that teaches Kabbalah who eats Domino's pizzas in a sukkah. I mean, I don't want to say his name because we give him too much publicity. I like the guy, but it's like you want to talk about missing the mark, James. Because he believes that you can because Uncle Mike believes that you can't really truly ever convert to Judaism. If that's the point, why do you study Torah? Oh well, Torah's for
Why
everyone.
is there?
Oh really? Torah's for everyone. So why aren't you an Israelite?
Why aren't you doing it?
Right. Um, you're missing the formula almost. It's like
I can't believe people actually say that to you. There's no way to convert. There's a whole book reserved for reading. We read it last week in Rabbi Gav's class. Ruth.
right. Ruth, that
Don't
was a
tell me you
beautiful.
can't
That was a
convert.
really
Are
good
you
reading.
freaking kidding me? How about Jethro? Don't tell me you can't convert. And
Because it's a bloodline. Another thing is, and that this is mostly a Hebrew Israelite thing, a Black Hebrew Israelite thing. They'll claim that it's because of the blood. You have to be a tribal association to be a member of Israel. But we learned from Rabbi Gav's class that even though Ruth was a Moabite, that she can become an Israelite through the belief system because of the nationality was tied to the religion. So your nationality was your religion was your nationality. It's kind of a little interest. It's a little confusing a little bit, but I get it. I'm trying. You know what I mean? It's almost like the art the pyramid is almost like you have your deity and then you have the tenets on top and the bottom. Like this, you guess what I'm saying? If it looks like a pyramid, but um, these people, it's getting wackadoo. It's getting wackadoo, and then this is Christianity. This is why it seems like Christianity to me, James. And I apologize if I offend any Noahides out there or any Christians, but to me, that's what Christians do. Christians will say, "Well, we have Torah, we're the new covenant, we have our code, right? It's sort of like a Noahide. We have the Noahide code, we have the Torah, but we're not like the Jews." You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're. I can see that like that's how it happened. You know what I'm saying? And you had Peter Paul doing their own shtick, and then they brought in the new people, Philip and Stephen, and they were the apostles of the new church, and they were non-Jews, and then you know what I'm saying? Oh well, how can I ever be really Jewish? You know what I'm saying? The whole New Testament, Acts. If you ever read the book of Acts, Paul was confused about whether or not Gentiles could convert. Do they need a bris? Do they need to eat kosher? Do they need to keep Shabbos? Eventually, he ended with, "Well, just believe in J.C." Which is almost like Noahidism. Well, all you have to really do is believe in Noah. You know what I'm saying? Noah saves you. He puts you in the ark. You're good. You know what I mean? That's your grace. Welcome to the room, Rosalie.
Hi, John. Hi, James.
all right.
We're talking about we got some comments lately. I saw that people are saying that you can never truly convert to Judaism. You can't, and there's no really such thing as a Ger Toshav or a Ger Sadik. And we were puzzled by that. James was flabbergasted. James actually almost fell out of his chair.
I'm really surprised that you would have so-called Noahides coming in. And actually, I'm not surprised. After Noahide Nations, nothing surprises me from the Noahide community anymore. But I guess I was a little taken aback. You're not a real convert. You can't convert. I mean, let me just tell you the difference between the Noahide and the Ger. All of it. Okay, convert too. I'm going to tell you the difference between the Noahide and the Ger, the biblical Ger. The Noahide doesn't cross the Jordan. The Noahide doesn't have any desire to cross the Jordan. the Noahide doesn't have any desire to leave Israel, or excuse me, Egypt, because he already talked to a couple of Jews and they told him a few things. And he's fine where he is, and that's it. The difference is between, and I'll give this credit to Islam as well to some degree. People like us choose not to just keep a few laws that we already do anyway or whatever, because we want to get to the Holy of Holies. Now let me explain the Holy of Holies. It's where the menorah is. It's where the ark rests in the temple, or we'll go to the Mishkan because it's Torah based. Outside, so who goes into the Holy of Holies? The Kohen. Who's outside the Kohen? The Kohen Gadol goes in, the high priest. Then you have the priests, the Kohen. Then you have the Israelites, and it's a structure all from the Holy of Holies. Outside of the Israelites, you have the entire congregation of Israel. That includes the stock of Jacob and the congregation of Jacob. And then outside of that, you've got people like me, which would be a ger in your gates, a ger toshav maybe, not a ger tzaddik. I haven't gone quite as far. Like John, more ger tzaddik than I would be ger toshav. Okay, except for the wine bit, but that's another discussion we'll get to. And then outside of that, you have people who do business with Jews who are allowed to come into Israel. They've got good silk. They might be Sheva worshipers. But so long as they leave that Sheva in their cart or their Sheva at their door, they can come into Israel and do all the business they want, so long as they keep 7 laws. But they're still Sheva worshipers, or Sheba or Shiva or whatever or Buddhists, but leave your golden Buddha at the door, leave it. And you can come in here and we can do business and we can shake hands and maybe even enjoy a meal and have a sandwich or something. And there's that, but they don't live there. They're Nokri, they're foreigners. So and then after that, you've got all the other people. The Noahide is just fine being on the other side of the freaking planet, as far away from the Holy of Holies as he is. Not that there's anything wrong with living in South America. I'm not saying that, or the Atlantic Ocean. I don't even know where the polar opposite of Israel is on a map, on a globe. But my point is, if you want to get closer to God, you keep more mitzvot. And you don't do it because you got to do it. You do it because you want to do it. You want to get closer. And if you can only get so close, great. But, you look toward that. And who is there? Who's at the Holy of Holies? Who's at the Mishkan? Who's at the temple? Who is that? Who are those people? The Jews. They're the ones carrying the Torah. If you're not attaching yourself to Israel, you're not attaching yourself to Israel. And you're no closer to God than you were before. You're still in the wilderness. Like I said earlier, the Noahide code is great, but let's just look at what followed Noah. A lot of junk. A whole lot of religious junk. That's why I believe there was a nation created, because it was going awry already. It was Babel. It was already be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. No, instead, let's concentrate our forces here and go up. No, that's not what God said to do. He said the exact opposite. We're already screwed up. So I think of Noahide code, I think it's a great base to keep you alive in Israel. But that's it. It is no basis in which you should base your life on. It's not your house. Okay, it's just a lot. If you're going to build a house, you need a good foundation. You need walls and a roof, and you're not going to get that with the code. You're going to get just as much as Sodom was given. You're going to get just as much as Egypt was given. You're given just as much as Amalek was given. You see what I'm saying here? Moabites, Peor, Baal Peor, all this stuff came from Noahides. They were all given the same covenant, and look what happened to them. That's from Torah. I'm not making that shit up. That's right at. Oh, I said the S word. I'm ungodly because I said a curse word or curse word. Anyway, we'll get to that. That's hearsay. I don't even want to get into that. But the point is if you want to be a Noahide, you're fine far from the Holy of Holies. You are fine from Jerusalem. You are fine far from Judah. Well, I don't think that's any way you can live. All I got of the Noahide code was it just pissed me off. I wanted more. This wasn't enough. And I felt like I was getting shafted. So if you're fine being an Noahide, that's great. But don't bitch it. Don't bitch at people because they cling to Israel, because they, The only thing I have a problem is with you, James, is that it's kind of messed up when you go to these rabbis and you call them out on their BS and you say something like, was the flood real? Was Noah a real character?
and they'll look at you straight in the face and they'll say, "No, well, Noah, he could have been a real guy." Oh, yeah. Well, sure. Well,
No one gives very few people give a second thought to Noah.
yeah, it's sad.
Noah has Noah ever even brought up in the Torah after Genesis 9, 10, 11? Is Noah ever brought up again in the Bible? Abraham's brought up. He's brought up in the prophets. Has Noah ever heard from again? Really?
Only in the genealogies.
I think there's a reference to him in the Psalms. I think it says that God sits on the throne before the flood of Noah. I think that's like a reference to him in the Psalms.
So rare.
Right, yeah. I think Adam gets mentioned more than Noah. I think Adam even. I think the prophets even talk about Adam.
Noahidism is the great step out of Christianity. If you can reject your idol, it's a great step out. But once you're out, I'm a satisfied customer, so I'm not paid to advocate, nor am I commanded to. But if you've got to cling to Israel.
Yes.
Everybody's got to cling to Israel. If you're looking for about this God guy that you think, you need to go to Israel. If you're not getting your stuff from the rabbis, if you're not getting it from kosher, full on, Sea of Reed pedestrian, full beard, payas. I know, the bigger the hat, or whatever. You need to go Jew. As Jewy as you can get. You need to go as you want to get as close to God as you can possibly get. And figuratively and literally laid out in the Bible, that would be the Holy of Holies. And, they never finished the divine code in English. So that should tell you something. It's been, 9 years? Really? 9 years. Really? Supposed to be the foundation for all mankind. It's so important. They've given us one volume and haven't given us a second in 8 years. So,
you know what code is finished, and you can read it here, front to cover, perfect.
Torah.
It is what it is. Anyway, today is Lag BaOmer.
Yeah, we sat by the bonfire last night. We did one.
Oh, last night it should be. Okay, yeah, last night, yeah, exactly.
What is this?
Lag BaOmer is considered a minor holiday in Judaism. It's like sort of like Purim, it's like a kid's thing. You roast the marshmallows and you sort of have like a juggling thing with the clowns or whatever. But the day is supposed to be the day that, for those who don't know, Rabbi Akiva, a convert to Judaism, who was one of the greatest rabbis that ever lived. I'm sorry, he wasn't a convert himself. His parents converted. He was the son of converts. He was one of the greatest rabbis that ever lived. And there was a plague that killed a lot of his students. And I think he died. Did Rabbi Akiva die in the plague? Or No. But today celebrates... they tie it into Lag BaOmer. That's why
I heard a different story. About the one whereas they were in Rome and there were 3 rabbis talking in the bathhouses and somebody heard them and they were talking about it, and one of them disagreed with Caesar and they chased him into a cave with his sons, the one that did the cave for 12 years.
Oh, that's Shimon Bar Yochai,
right?
The
right
Zohar author.
And when he came out, he returned to the people, and he was on such a higher level than they were. He didn't like what he saw, and every time he said something about somebody, they caught on fire.
Right.
So God sent him back. So the reason is that you want to, the fire is to remind you that, don't be so judgmental. Otherwise, you're going to burn people with
That,
fire.
that, today also they tie it in. I don't think it's necessarily the day of when he came out of the cave, but mystic Jews tie it into the day. But today started off as originally to commemorate Rabbi Akiva, the death of his students. 12,000 of them died of the plague.
Baseless hatred.
Basis hatred, or whatever the case might have been. They died in a. No one really knows what happened with the plague, but there are different reasons. But it's also what else is it? What else is there? There's something I'm missing.
Shavuot.
Rabbi Akiva, Shimon Bar Yochai.
Shavuot. Do we miss that?
No, that's coming up. We've got a few more days to go.
Yep.
We're missing something, Rosalie. What was the other thing? Anyway, it's a minor holiday. It's considered a minor holiday. And someone was born today. Who was born?
I don't know. I haven't really seen my email because I had to work.
There's a major birth today. That's what it is. I think it's also the Rebbe, like one of the Rebbe's born this day or something. Anyway, so it's like a big thing to celebrate. Do something with the kids. Count the Omer. If you haven't counted the Omer, let's do it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishnu b'shmotav v'azivanu al sefirat ha'omar. Today is 34 days of the Omer, which is 4 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. So you're supposed to count the Omer with a blessing. There's a discrepancy in the Bible. It says count the days, count your days as you leave Egypt until Shavuot, the giving of the 10 Commandments of Mount Sinai. But later on, God says weeks, because that's what Shavuot means. Shavuot means weeks. So which is it? Do I count the weeks or do I count the days? So the Chabad tradition is you count the days and the weeks together.
We have a small class tonight. I think I think the title of tonight's hangout might have scared people off.
Yeah, it's better than Jesus on Good Friday.
So here's to the
Good, I like that. That's
here's to the fearless.
Right. I think it's pretty much whatever's been said is going to be said. This is the same thing like the Christians. They're going to have their arguments. They're going to say Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is God. Jesus is coming back. They're gonna have all their missionary shit, and then we're gonna have our kind of points, and we're gonna say, well, Torah is the truth, and God can't be a man, and the Messiah has not yet come, and we're gonna have our counterpoints, and they're gonna have their counterpoints. And
well, if the Christians are gonna worry about why the world around them is turning to shit, maybe it just might be because they're not doing what God wants them. Have they ever thought of that? Look what you've done to your food supply. Look what you've done to your money supply. They're leaving the churches in droves. Islam gets kids now, not Christians. Christians have to sublet their churches. You've got mega churches and your Joel Osteens, and who gets money. You fund that motherfucker's house. Yeah, I said it. You fund it. Yeah, what have you done? You're ruining everything is what you're doing. You've got everything right in front of you. You are handed it to on a silver friggin' platter. And you spit in God's eye. No, I don't. I love God. No, you don't. You don't follow 7 laws. You're an idolater and a goddamn story. I don't give a shit what you think and what you say. You worship a dead man. You pray to a dead man. You worship anything but God. You're an idolater. Period. I don't care what Hebrew roots, Black Hebrew Israelite name you want to stick on the end of it. You're an idolater. And it's easy to fall into that because who did it first? God shows up at Sinai, the mixed multitude in Israel. So it's a human frailty, but admit it. Don't keep doing it. I can understand if the peasants couldn't read, but it's been 600 friggin' years. The peasants can read. It says blatantly in the Bible, don't bow to idols. And you keep doing it. What are you, fucking stupid? I'm not going to be nice about this.
Stupid is what
they have shit for arguments while they write me letters and write you letters. I know about this lately. I got asked recently why I haven't taken on my Savior. And has it ever occurred to you? Look what we've done to the justice system. Look what you've done to the justice system. Even our Constitution says you don't have cruel and unusual punishment. But what do the Christians do? Masturbate to the electric chair when it came out. Oh, America was all for it. Jesus freaks are in church clamoring for it. You torture your animals. You treat the earth like shit, and you allow it to happen. You spit in God's eye. You wipe your ass with the law and say, "Look, I fulfilled it." See? And you wonder why your world's turned to shit. You wonder why you're the most persecuted people on the planet. I'll tell you what. It's because you fucking deserve it. Not because of what you did to man, but what you do to God. And you think you're immune. God, you think you're freaking immune. Even Islam knows better than that. Are you kidding me? You're not immune to evil. Your religion isn't immune to evil. Jesus isn't saving you from shit. You abort your own goddamn children. Christian nation. In God we trust. Go fuck yourself. And leave the Jews alone. If you're not going to support them for just letting them have a place to be, which a lot of evangelical Christians do, expecting the Jews to be wiped out any minute now so the real Messiah can come after their fake one does. You don't love the Jews. I appreciate the support, but you don't love Jews. You don't love God. You don't love the Torah. You don't love the Bible. If you did, you'd keep it. And you stop telling us we don't. He's dead. He's dead. He's dead. The fact that you pray to a dead man, that curses you twice. You don't just pray to a dead man. You pray to a dead man as God. And you wonder why your world turns to shit. It's because you fucking deserve it. And if you don't fix it, if you don't straighten your shit out and drop your goddamned idol, you're I don't know what to say to you. And I might go down with you because I'm amongst you. But you're screwed. And Islam deserves it. Islam deserves your lands. It deserves what you've got. Sorry. I hate to say that, but you want them to be your adversary? Now, don't get me started on the Muslims, especially that Omar, the fake ones, because all the Christians get are the fake ones. All the Jews get are the ones that make the news. And what do? They cower. They don't do a goddamn thing because they believe in Jesus too. They believe in Jeebus too. So they can't speak out against a Christian, even though a Christian, would spit in God's eye. And they say, well, at least they're not Jews.
Yeah.
It's over. It's if the Christians don't wake up and stop and get off the Jews' ass. Oh my God, how many Americans do I get? Always the Jews, and they're controlling our minds, control the banks, and start all the wars and apartheid state. Holy crap! Your children, Christians. Yeah, I said a long time ago, I'm done with talking to Christians, and I meant it. I never fully expressed it. Let's have a Christian. Let's reach. I don't want to reach out to Christians anymore.
I want to apologize full on with that. There was a little bit of me that thought I could still push it, and I thought I could still kind of grab onto it. And there was a little bit of me, when you're young. The expression "young, dumb, and full of cum." When you're young, you think. You can take on the world. You can change the world. You can, and a few months ago when I was pushing the whole, let's have Christmas night. Let's have the Christians in. Let's try to, I was still thinking, there was something there to be saved. But after watching, just typing in, go to YouTube, type in Jewish, type in Talmud, type in Torah, type in Hebrew. And you get hundreds of thousands of videos, and it's just the most disgusting filth that you ever watch in your life. And it's almost like, I get it. this is the underbelly of society. The cream of the crop is the cream of the crop, and the underbelly is the underbelly. But if this is the best it is on YouTube, then yeah, you're right, James. I'm done too myself. I've quit. I don't want to do outreach anymore. I don't want to talk to Christians. I don't believe that I have anything in common with a Christian. I don't have anything in common with, to be honest, with anything with Jesus. Uh,
I
just
agree.
because just because you call yourself Hebrew roots, or you call yourself Hebrew Israelites, or you call yourself Messianic, doesn't mean you're kosher. Okay, just because you say Shalom, or you call Jesus Yahashua, okay. Oh, I say Cohen instead of priest. Oh, I say Hamashiach like I know Hebrew. You don't know Hebrew. If you knew Hebrew, you wouldn't be a Christian. And yes, Hebrew root people are Christians. Yes, black Hebrew Israelites are Christians. Yes, Messianic Jews are Christians. Whether you like it or not, you're not Hebrew, you're not Israelite, you're not Jewish. Okay? If you want to be Hebrew, you know what real Hebrew roots means? Hebrew roots means you convert to Judaism. You wear a big black hat. That's what Hebrew roots means. Uh, you know,
Is
um,
that all it takes? Shoot, why are you bothering with Jews when you could go to Hebrew roots and
you want to. It's what it is you want to have all the fun without any of the work. You know what I mean? It's like an out. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, do you keep Shabbos? No, I got JC. You eat kosher? No,
Want to be
I got
society.
JC. It's an out. You can take the out. Why play baseball when you can just take the out? No, I got JC.
That's the way I feel about Noah Hides.
Noah Hides is me and James on a rant for an hour about them
Yeah, I know.
too. Um, yeah, Noah Hides, Christians, Hebrew Israelites, Hebrew roots.
boom,
It's all the same shit now.
boom.
Um,
I'm not goy. I'm not goy. By all halakha, I am not goy.
Or
I
no.
am.
there
I
has
am.
to be a third category. I've been saying this for years now, that there has to be a third category, a third gender. There has to be I don't want to get on LGBTQ here. Like there's like a spectrum of people. Like we're on a spectrum, like Noahide, Goy to Gear to Goy, the Jew. It's like I get it. It's fucked up too, but because it doesn't just fit into a box. You just can't fit it. You can't put it in anywhere. Like what am I today? Okay, I can't. I wear tzitzit. I walk around with a kippah. You know what I mean? It's like, how can I still be one thing if I'm not the if I'm the other? You know what I'm saying? So they mean well. I mean, I think Christians mean well, and like I said, this is where Christianity started. The third category. That must have been what it is. The third category. But
If
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the third category isn't what we need. But then again, two standards aren't. Then again, two standards is too many, right?
that's the problem with that's the difference between the whole sugya of the ger juxtaposed to the Noahide. The ger is all about attaching and becoming one with Israel. It's always about looking to God, to the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
Your perspective, your comrades, your allies are Jews and their God. I hate to say it like that, but that's kind of the in I don't like saying it. I don't like, but it's I have to make a point. God didn't choose us. He didn't choose me. He didn't choose Rosalie. He didn't choose you. God chooses. You choose God. That's great. Great. Good. Good. That's a step. But you can't say you're choosing the God of Israel while you blatantly, flagrantly violate Torah. You can't do it. That's what people were afraid of the Noahites doing, is them running off and creating their own stuff. And sure as shit, that's what happened. They went off and created their own thing. And it's so separate from Israel. And you can't convert. That's a new one I haven't heard. I wish I would have been there. You can't convert. There is no, you're a Noahide, you can be an atheist and be a Noahide. What good is that? Not believing in the very God that gave the laws, just finding wisdom in the laws and going after people who do. But how many Noahides called me a Rambamist? I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me? Because I quoted Mishnah Torah to him. Told me I was a Rambamist. Oh, give me a freaking break. Rambamist. We don't. It's Jews or nothing. It's from Jewy Jews or nothing. You're either, and I might not be full blown Jew, but you know what? I fit myself into their law. I find where I can participate, where I can learn, where I can benefit. There is a benefit to praising and blessing Israel. There are benefits you have by clinging to her and learning and adjusting yourself that way, adjusting your life that way. There are great benefits, but you've got to attach. And it's not a matter of submission. You're not submitting to Jews. You're submitting to Torah. You're submitting to the Word of God. You're submitting to God Himself. They are there to facilitate that, and it's their job. So bug them, ask them questions, but don't go in with your own Bible and pointing at it. Don't bring your New Testament to. You know what Christians really need to do? For every Christian that thinks they need to convert a Jew, or to think that a Jew is an incomplete Christian, or Christians are complete Jews, you need to go and get some skizzers, and you need to cut that Old Testament out of your Bible and bury it, because it's sure as hell better than the toilet paper you use it for. Detach yourself from the God of Israel if you're not going to honor the God of Israel by way the God of Israel says to all people to honor, by keeping His law. At least Noahides can recognize that. But Noahides like to separate themselves from the very people who provide them with the law. What a bunch of hokey nonsense. It just can't be done. You violate your Everman Chachai. You violate the treatment of animals in your countries, especially America. You've allowed that law to just, you don't care. You don't give a shit. It has nothing to do with Jeebus. What does Jesus do? He kills trees. When did Jesus ever plant one? When did Jesus in your Bible, when did Jeebus ever do anything? He killed pigs. You're not even allowed to slaughter them in Judaism. You're not even allowed to feed them to people in Judaism. And he kills them? He kills a bunch of pigs because of man's flaws? Drives them into the sea? No, Christianity violates that now. You have allowed God's animals to be perverted, and you treat them like crap. You treat your planet like crap. And you pray to the dead, and you commit idolatry, and you curse Israel, and you wonder why things are so bad for you in the world. Well, you need to rethink your place with God, because the from Jew, the Orthodox Jew, the Jewy Jew who busts his ass to keep Torah and teaches it, man, they're the ones who are supposed to teach you. And if you're not going to go to them and you're going to make up your own BS anyway, how is that going to motivate even them? I hate to say this, but Jews need you as much as you need them. Real Jews, not your Messianics, but we ask the best questions on Jews. Okay, they need you as much as they need us. It's a symbiotic relationship, and it's unhealthy at the time. But if you want a solution to your problems, Christians, it's there, and it's with the Jews. So when you can stop pretending you are one, you might learn something. All right, Aaron, welcome to the group. How you doing, sir?
Shalom, doing well.
I guess you know the topic for the evening. Not wanting to nag at Christians, but the religion. And we've been really easy on Christians in here as of late. And John knows that I've been kind of wanting to do an idol smashing hangout for some time. And so, I mean, that's what we're here for. No holds barred. Any advice? Anything on your mind? What came to your mind when you saw the theme of tonight's discussion? Anything you can, add to? You don't have to be as radical as me. I know.
Well, to be honest with you, I looked at it quickly and realized what night it was, and I didn't even read the read the title.
Oh, that's
what was the title? What was the title? And I'll tell you what comes to mind.
Jesus, Dead on Arrival. There's alternate. Now John's given us a couple alternate. There's some alternate themes. We couldn't pick them all. There's, of course, Jesus Dead on Arrival. There's Nailing Christ, the sequel. There's 50 Ways to Leave Your Idol. And finally, Longer Nail, Thicker Wood. So this is a no holds barred hangout.
Longer nails, thicker wood. That's rough. That's a hateful title.
Hey, I didn't come up with that one, but no.
Well,
go ahead.
It's, first, then I guess with the title, the first thing that would pop into my head here would be that the whole problem with Christianity is that it's just it's a brain dead religion that just requires you to just look away from all intellect, all, reason, sense, logic, throw it all out the window and just become a oppressed moron. And whether, so by the time you arrive at the, true revelation of acceptance of, Yeshu, you've had to kill yourself off. So it's their entire basis. Whether it started that way or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I know that it's only been used by oppressors throughout most of history, and it's easy to see why. Unfortunately, they just teach their practitioners that you just have to accept, and everything's acceptance, and feelings, and and it's almost like what you see in the political scene today, where we just reject all logic, and anybody that asks questions is shut down and cast away, and we just rely on feelings and moronic ways, and anyone who tries to come up against it is beaten severely by the masses.
What do you think of, now John's had some encounters lately that I unfortunately was not able to participate with. Messianics, Hebrew roots, people who, my best friend, my oldest friend from second grade, he calls me up while I'm at work because he was passing by Daystar on his TV. Daystar is a Christian satellite network. And on it was an apparent Jew. And James is a Christian guy, but he calls me up and says, something is not right about this guy. I really need help here. I had to cut him off because I was at work. But he was like, there's a guy, is this really true? He was like kind of half scared. I'm like, no, but don't worry about it, dude. Nobody listens to people like that. But there are deceivers. There are people dressing up as Jews. It's basically fancy dress at this point.
Yeah, they had him in Chicago. They busted him out in Chicago this past week.
They what?
What busted happened? Him out. They busted out some people in Chicago this week. They were dressed.
They were fake husband and wife pretending to be Jews, but they were really Christian mercenaries. That's how bad it's gotten, James.
My goodness.
They're trying to convert Jews to Christianity.
And he had teetseed. He had his black hat and his kippah, and yeah, she was dressed up modestly too. And they busted him out.
I didn't hear about this. I did not know about this. My gosh. See? This is what I'm getting at. You think after everything everybody's been through, they're gonna believe your bullshit? Are you seriously kidding? Are you? Oh my goodness! You're dressing as Jews to convert Jews.
You're gonna love this guy, James. This is a guy here I found. His name is Michael Rood. Look at this guy. He's a Christian.
Oh my goodness.
Christian. He's a mess. He's like a Christian who pretends he's a Jew. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. People like this. You never saw this guy before, James?
This isn't the same guy who used to the Orthodox Russia or the Orthodox Greek guy with the big crucifix and.
Oh, he's an anti-Semite, that guy.
But this is a different guy.
This is a different guy, yeah.
Michael Rood's like the original Hebrew root guy.
Yeah, he's like Hebrew roots, yeah. Whatever he is. I mean,
I think he's morphed now, but 5-10 years ago he was leading a lot of the the Hebrew root sacred name type groups would just flock to old Michael Rood with his Rood awakenings.
I mean, it's gotten bad, James. I mean, it's gotten bad. I mean, I don't know what to say, James. I mean, that's how bad it is. We got people dressing up like Chabad in Chicago, going around proselytizing Jesus. It makes me want to just.
It's feckless, y'all. You're not going to win. You're not going to win.
What I want so badly, though, is these people they have something there. They want it badly. I get it. Everyone wants Torah. Everyone wants to be the chosen. And you could technically have that. The problem where they go wrong is that they want to do it themselves. They want to have their own denomination. They want to go by their own rules. Just as much as they'll say the Catholic Church is the false church, or they say the Mormons are the false church, will be the same people that will say that Jews are also false. And it's like, well, who really has the truth anyway? You? So, I mean, out of everyone, you happen to find it. Right? You, Joe Blow, living out in Missouri. The tornado came and just blew you all away. That's how powerful you are. I mean, I want to give a shout out to the people that lost their lives in the tornado, that devastation, that actual real news. Hopefully,
all across the Midwest. Floodings, tornadoes, and it's not done. More's on the way.
Yeah, so let's a moment of silence for them, and hopefully God bless them, and everything will be okay. And also, Trump is back in the news. You think the Russian collusion had you by the balls? Now Pelosi is coming out saying that Trump. I was watching a news article, James. Nancy Pelosi says that Trump's family has to step in and make an intervention for him because he's out of control. You see this lately?
I heard part of it, but I have a hard time listening to her anymore.
She says, she has the chutzpah. Trump is so out of his mind. His family needs to stage an intervention. And it's a cover-up. So what's the cover? Tell everyone about the cover-up, James. What's Trump covering it up now? Coming up like the sacrifice.
I don't know. That's the whole thing. You have to have, you have to have an intent behind a cover-up. You have to have a crime behind a cover-up, and there's no evidence of a crime. So I don't know what he's covering up. Frankly, I don't care about his tax returns. I didn't give the presidents in the past 40 years. Have you seen the scum lowlife that have occupied that building for the past 40 years? And you think that this president should stoop to that level? That is not the people's business. It's not the people's business. It's nobody's business. It's him and the IRS and the Treasury, I guess, but the IRS. That's it. He's not giving over his tax. Good. He might have cheated on his taxes. Double good. I give full kudos and praises and blessings to people who get away with not paying their taxes. Good for them. Taxation is theft. End of story. It'd be great for courts of justice, but we don't have them anymore. You've let it get out of control, Christians. You really have. Your president genuinely supports Israel. First one ever.
I want to go right before I have to. The wifey wants to talk to me, and I have to get some sleep for tomorrow. I got work tomorrow, and I'm going to read here from the Midrash. This is for the book of Vayikra. We're in Parsha Bihor. It says the obligation to put a needy person back on their feet. The Torah commands us, and if your brother becomes poor and fails, and his means fail him, you shall support him, even if he is a ger, or a ger toshav, a Gentile who fulfills the 7 Noahide commandments, so that he may live with you. That's what it says, Vayikra 25:35. This verse teaches us that it is an obligation to extend financial help to a fellow Jew or a ger toshav, Noahide, who needs a loan or needs charity. It is a mitzvah to lend or give him money for conducting business or from some sort of necessary transaction that must take place because of his lacks, because of his means are lacking. The Torah emphasizes that that we should put him back on his feet before he is reduced to bankruptcy, or that he even needs to accept charity. So you should do it before the charity. So you shouldn't have to wait the charity. You should do it before charity. Similarly, we should help someone as soon as his means become to fail, and do not delay him until he is bankrupt. This mitzvah to give tzedakah to the needy is mentioned also in Parsha Ra'ah, Deuteronomy 15:11. The Midrash elaborates here as well. It is an art to give charity wisely without embarrassing the receiver. So it's also a mitzvah not to embarrass someone by giving them charity. Little Torah there for everyone.
Thank you, John.
I thought it was a successful hangout. Positive hangout. A lot of good stuff. A lot of F-bombs, a lot of wonderful Torah.
I'm sorry, my mouth, but
that really soured me. I was watching Rabbi Asher's video, and I was watching his video, and I thought it was a really great video, and all of a sudden, James pops on. I didn't know he was in the video. I guess he cut it from one of the segments from the hangout, and James has the F-bomb. I think you say, what the fuck are they good for? Speaking about Christians. And someone leaves a comment in the comment section. The whole entire video is ruined for that man's F-bomb. I cannot listen to this anymore. Something like that. I don't even remember what the guy person.
What a pansy.
You know what?
What's that? What'd you say, Rosalie?
What a pansy.
What a pansy. Oh.
What a pansy. So here's to an F-bomb. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Only good things. May God grant us all our desires and fulfill our desires and protect us and guide us. Take care, James. Have a great night. And Aaron and Rosalie, take care.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom.
Adios, amigo. See you on the flip side. I just want people to know, if you're going to come into the hangout, Christianity is idolatry here. There's idolatry and there's improved idolatry. One is where, you're actually bowing to a statue that God prohibits. And the other is an improved idolatry where you don't need the actual idol. You can just keep it in your head. But it's still an idol. and you're still in violation of the law. That's one thing where a belief can actually lead you astray. It's hi Asher, how you doing? I'm, there's only so far I can go. There's only so much I can get. But when people are calling me, have you accepted your true Savior lately? I'm tired of that. Can't you just leave us alone? Like I said, go home, get some scissors, and cut off that back part of your Bible and bury it because you're not using it. You don't care, and I'm tired of being insulted for having it. And anyway, Asher, what's your take? What's going on? Jesus is dead on arrival. I know we've been kind to Christians in here, and I've made that point. I'm not here to bash Christians, but I mean, the Christians are the most oppressed group in the world now. It's gotten insane. They're just getting stuff from the world. Muslims, even here in the States, their churches are depleting. They've turned into people like Joel Osteen and John Baker and Jimmy Swaggart and whoever else is on Daystar dressed like a Jew. The
average Jew.
It's God or nothing. It's God or nothing. You can't have a dead guy. He's freaking dead. 2,000 years. He's not here. Stop praying to him. All right. Go ahead, man. Dude.
Yeah, so Jews, since the establishment of the State of Israel, people think that Jews have been hard on Muslims, but religiously, Jews have been hard on Christians. Right. As a matter of fact, as you know, the average religious Jew considers Muslims a non-idolater. They consider them monotheistic, and some of them even consider them B'nai Noach. But we have to realize the great debt that we owe to Christians. It's Christianity that has civilized this planet, right? Obviously with the instructions in the Torah, but it's a Christian Western mindset, not Christians from the Middle East or Christians from Iran. No, it's Christians from the West. Right? Christians, like the Coptic Christians, really don't behave any differently than the Muslims do, right? But so this is why I've been coming out more in defense of Christians, because what Christians don't do is that they don't wallow in their suffering like Jews do and Muslims do. Right. If something happens to a Muslim, Al Jazeera is out there blasting people. If something happens to a Jew, the same thing. But because in Christianity they have this notion of suffering in silent, long suffering, being patient, emulating their Messiah, who also suffered. They're not quick to build a memorial on a tragedy, right? But because they don't feel like victims. And I think there's a lot to learn from that as Jews, right? And this is why Christians do a lot of good, even though they did not. It's a bit disorganized. The average Christian doesn't even know he's keeping commandments when he's keeping commandments, right? Because he just feels he's being obedient to Jesus, right? So Jesus required more than 7 laws, right? He required a lot of ethical commands. There's an ethical portion to our legal system, which it's still part of the same legal system, right? So that when we see people keeping those ethical portions as something that their belief system requires. So that's the difference between that and the Noahide movement. The Noahide movement doesn't require, the Noahide movement only requires 7 laws, okay? Now you could keep as many more laws as you want, but it only requires 7. Christianity requires a lot more laws than that, right? Ethical laws. Obviously, Christians aren't keeping the Sabbath or, Yom Kippur or anything like that. So we have to call things what they are. If you have a people keeping more laws than another people, then we have to say these people are ethically superior than the other group. Okay, and also being that both Christianity and Noahidism pick and choose what they want to keep and what they want to drop, right? I know the biggest attack against Christians is that they're idolaters. All right, so Christians choose to not keep that law. If there is a law, for Gentiles to not be an idolater, if there's a law for Gentiles not to be an idolaters, they'll just choose to not keep that law, just like a Noahide chooses not to, you know, like put cheese on his hamburger, right? Because the same God who said, you know, like don't eat pork is the same God who said do not murder, right? You know, so like if we're already in the business of picking and choosing, what's the big deal if a Christian chooses to keep one less law, but still probably 10 times more laws than the average Noahide? So overall, we have to call things how they are. We have to weigh not just movements, but people, and judge them not by intentions, but by deeds. So who does more good in this world? Who keeps more Torah? Because that's what good deeds are. They're God's instructions, you know, personified in written form. So hands down, it would be Christians versus Noahites, right? Not Christians versus Jews, right? Although it's close, right? It would benefit people to become observant Christians than, you know, I guess observant Noahides. As observant as a Noahide has to be to remain a Noahide. All right, you know.
Well, you know, I was talking to John about this when this Noahide thing started, like 10, 15 years ago, maybe. Maybe you'll remember this, but there were websites popping up of Baptist Noahides, Catholic Noahides. You know, they were just all of a sudden everybody was a Noahide, and it just completely diluted the entire thing. It was lost to the Christians, basically, is what I'm saying. I don't know if you remember that, but it's like anybody could. My beef is with the Noahide law is that it led to, you know, every bad thing in the. I mean, look at the civilization. The first mentioned civilization in Torah after the flood, with this Noahide law, Babel, and then after Babel it became Sodom and Gomorrah and Egypt and all these, and you know, Amalek. These were all Noahides.
They were Noahides. That's the thing.
But
I mean, that's
were descendants of Noah. They had the same code that everybody else did. But I mean, what good
myth.
were they?
It's a myth that Noah lived by 7 laws. It's only a myth. It's a legend, right? We shouldn't try to rewrite Torah with rabbinic lenses. And I'm a rabbinic Jew, but I'm, you know, a rabbinic legend that teaches that Adam was given 6 laws and Adam was, you know, and Noah was given 1 is not one to reinterpret Torah with, right? But these guys had some sort of understanding of right and wrong. That's all we know. Okay. If it was 7, 8, 10, 12 laws, right? Ezekiel says that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of cruelty. Now, cruelty is not one of the 7 like Noahide laws, right? So yeah, you know, God just wants you to do good, right? The biggest joke of all is that we've redefined what it means to be good, and we've redefined what it means to be righteous. Anyone who walks around believing that someone who keeps the 7 Noahide laws is considered righteous might as well throw out the whole Bible. Okay, you know, because, you know, 7 laws is going to make you a righteous person. Well, then God has a very low standard, like of decency and morality. I mean, it takes a lot more than 7 laws. Heck, you know, there's no law in the Noahide code to fight evil. There's no law to defend the innocent. There's no law to honor your parents. I mean, you know, how can this person be considered righteous? You know, so
that was my argument for Israel. If you want to, I mean, because we have a lot of pretend Jews out there, and it's good that we're not afraid of Jews now. I get that the Christians aren't as afraid as they were 50, 100 years ago. Frightened, demon people, you know, basically is what they were until now that the Christians are flattering Israel with Hebrew roots and Messianic Jews and things of that nature, yada yada yada. But God set a higher standard via Avraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses. You know, the law becomes. He sets a better example. If the Noahide law was enough, there wouldn't be need for Israel. There wouldn't be a need for, you know, a nation. I don't think.
Right. Well, that's one similarity that the Noahide laws has with Christianity. That a Jew is not allowed to revert back to any one of those two because they're considered less. In other words, how can you try to establish standards of morality if one group of people are judged by one standard of morality and another group is judged by another standard of morality? I mean, is morality, or are we about to say that morality is relative? Right? I mean, if it's relative, I mean, what's the difference in saying, like, if a black man kills someone, it's different than if a white guy kills someone? No.
Mhm.
This is why that we have to call these things what they are. God divided, which is what they're doing. They're saying that God requires something different from one man than he does for another man. A God divided cannot stand as an ethical God, right? Because ethics is relative to the person who's doing it, right? I never bought the whole notion that something's wrong just because God said it's wrong, right? Like, it was like that. God wouldn't have tried so hard to make himself lovable after the Exodus. In other words, he was trying to prove himself to us. Dennis Prager, I was listening to something he said in the Rational Bible today, and like he said that monotheism didn't begin with Abraham. What began with Abraham was ethical monotheism, because we see in the text that people were following the one God before Abraham. Noah followed the one God, right, Shem, right. But what ethical monotheism brought to the table is that it introduced a God worth emulating, a good God that's unique among what anyone else thought a God was back then, right? So God is constantly proving himself to us because of how ethical and just he is. By the simple fact that he tells us don't judge, don't favor a poor man in judgment, means that there's ultimately just one law. There's ultimately just one law. But the modern day rabbis will tell you, no, he's going to judge a Gentile differently than he's going to judge a Jew. In terms of ethics, that means that a Gentile could dishonor his parents and completely get away with it, but a born Jew can't. There is no way that a good God came up with that system. Okay? Now, I do understand that if you're running a country, these checks and balances could exist amongst a Supreme Court to judge its citizens. But we can't bring God into it and say that this is the way God functions also. But the problem with Jewish mysticism is that it takes everything that was legal, that was created to function in a court, and it gave it a mystical twist, right? Where the Noahide laws were developed by the court to adjudicate Gentiles who chose to live in Jewish lands. Okay, not everyone has to accept the Torah, okay? But if you're going to live amongst us in our community, you at least better behave a little better than an animal. So the court would adjudicate you by these 7 laws. But then, of course, when the rabbis came and gave it a mystical twist, oh no, these aren't just 7 laws created by the rabbis. The 6 laws were given to Adam, and the 7th law to Noah. This is why these rabbis who teach the Noahide laws are a bunch of meatheads. They're boneheads, because how can they have a conversation with me on this topic and me break it down like this, and they still adamantly call me a heretic and a denier of God? These guys are ethical morons. You understand? Well, they don't know the difference between what makes God good and what makes God unjust. That's unbecoming of a good God. But to say that ethically, that a Gentile who knows better is allowed to break ethical law, but a Jew is not. It doesn't make any sense. Only a moron would say something like that. So the understanding is that these people who kept these 7 laws didn't know any better. Okay, so it wasn't their fault if they found themselves in the crossfire of either a Jewish war or found themselves living amongst Jews. But the Sanhedrin had to deal with them, and these guys perhaps couldn't even read or write. So it says, fine, we're going to give you 7 laws. If you're not able to keep these 7 laws, then really you don't deserve to exist. And that's the whole notion of putting people to death for breaking one of these 7 laws. You understand?
It's like an idolater. I was describing the Nokri is even different than the Noahide, because the Nokri can at least come into Israel or come into the Jewish people, can come into Israel, let's say greater Israel, whatever. I'm thinking visually here from the Holy of Holies. A Nokri, if there's a Nokri among you, he behaves well enough to do business. He might worship the Sheva or the Sheba dude, or the whatever the thing is over there. But he's kind enough to leave his idol at the door. You know what I mean? And and still be able to do business. He doesn't cheat, doesn't use false scales. He's not there to hurt anybody. That's what the Noahide really is the Nokri. They're not even given the status of citizenship, like the Ger Toshav, at least as a resident, a protected resident in the land. The Nokri isn't even that, but he's friendly enough. If you're encountering a Nokri in the land of Israel, it's probably not because you allow someone to come in there and wave their idol around and say you should worship my God. It's for a better reason than that. If there's a law for a Nokri, it's someone who at least can behave. You know what I mean? They're not uncivilized. And that's where I put the Noahide, the base 7 law. Happy, the shirt, the T-shirt, Johnny Noahide. Happy to be a Noahide on the back. That's the Nokri. It's the same. It's the same thing. Nokri. I just think it's interesting. Noach, Nochri, Noachide. Not the same thing as someone who clings. And I think that's where we go wrong. While the Christian flatters the Jew, the Noahide in essence flatters the Jew as well. It's not like you're not joining the Israelite people. I might not be Jewish by law, but I guarantee you when the line's drawn, I know where I'm going to stand. Not so much with the Noahide, not so much with the Christian, They flatter the Jew, they flatter Jews, they flatter Torah, they flatter God. But I think there's a big difference. It's like you could be a Noahide on the other side of the Holy of Holies. You don't have to be anywhere near the Holy of Holies, or the priests, or the teachers, or or a kosher diet. You don't have to. It can be as far as you want from it and be just fine. That's not the way That's not the way Torah sets up, because Torah is set up. The law is set up from the Holy of Holies, where that one place where heaven and earth meet, the belly button of the world, that Holy of Holies, and it goes from there. It goes out from there. So God is at the center of everything.
There you go, sexualizing religion. The belly button. Yes, what's the penis?
Yeah.
What is kind of... All right.
Where's the G spot? That's what I want to know.
Oh boy. All right. This is something to think about. Nowhere in Torah does it say that Gentiles can't worship idols. Okay, let's just call it how it is. Nowhere in Torah it seems like Gentiles are left to do whatever the heck they want to do. Now, yes, there's the whole notion of a stranger within your gates, right? That also has to, according to the literal text, has to even keep the Sabbath, the ger b'sherecha. But that's like within your gates, i.e. in your cities, right? Like we don't want you defecating in front of Baal Peor, like in front of the falafel shop. It's going to make people like lose their appetite. All right. But
thinking they're in San Francisco or something.
But the rabbis developed this notion, and then people run with it thinking that there was a whole yeshiva run by Gentiles teaching monotheism. That's not in the Torah, right? It would actually be unjust for God to expect people who did not buy into his covenant to stop worshiping other gods, right? Because first of all, the whole notion of monotheism is amoral. In other words, it's not immoral. It's neither moral or immoral. It's a ceremonial act. It's a religious act. It's something holy, but it's not something necessarily ethical. In other words, it makes sense that God would punish a Gentile in the Torah for murdering, for stealing, for hurting his fellow man. But to not giving, but for not blaspheming him and not, showing him honor, that sounds like something or someone in the Jewish world who was overly jealous, who wanted to insert something in the Mishnaic literature to kind of win point with Jews and say like, oh, look, even God that requires you, Gentile, to show him honor. Right, but this is adding to the Torah because God never required that. Now, in other words, he did require for people who were in the covenant, right? But if you weren't in the covenant, God would still punish you, right? Because idolatry is punishable, at least according to rabbinic tradition, on Gentiles by God. Right? Really, according to rabbinic tradition, it's only punishable by the court or the court's established. It doesn't say anything about God punishing them. But later on, it's been translated that God punishes you or Gentiles for being idolaters. It's based on the whole Tovia Singer, Michael Skoback, you're a Christian, you're an idolater, movement, right? You're like cut off from God in some way, right? But the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah doesn't view idolatry as such a bad thing if you're not in the covenant. Now, obviously, he says, keep this Torah that you shall live, right? That you shall not live in existence of cursing, but a blessing. Fine. Clearly we buy into that. But to create a new narrative and encourage modern day Gentiles to embrace that narrative that, yeah, I'm a Noahide and I don't have to become Jewish, or I don't have to enter the covenant because I am a Noah. I fill a role that, although it doesn't appear in the Torah, the rabbis tell me is as true as the narrative in Torah, right? And there's just so much built on. There's so many students of Ger Gravy and like Rabbi Katz on Facebook, and I have to deal with these guys, and I could spot them out right away. Like when you have a Gentile using the word sugya, right? That this is something that David Katz thought of, because he has these.
Sugya mean teaching or lesson?
Yeah, no, yes, but Gentiles or Jews hardly even use that. Only yeshiva people use that. So they're big on. There's no one who's coming from a Chabad, class who that you'll hear use the word sugya, because people who teach people who don't know much about Judaism that wouldn't use what yeshivish words unless he's trying to show off, right? Like nafkamina or shaila. Like he throws in these words to let people know, like, yes, I'm yeshivish, but he doesn't know who he's talking to. Like he's talking to people who don't have a rabbinic background, right? Just translate it into English. That when a Ger Toshav on Facebook is trying to debate me, and he's typing in these words when it's affecting the way he expresses himself, because he's, sometimes using it out of context, it shows that he's just trying to mimic his teacher, right? But I don't think it helps the cause. Notice Tovia Singer, when he teaches, he doesn't do stuff like that. He knows who he's speaking to, and he speaks in the clearest way possible. Like he doesn't have to, throw rabbinic words in there or throw Hebrew words, because he's confident in what he knows. Michael Skoback also, they're confident in their knowledge, right? But why is it that David Katz has to use rabbinic terms, right? And when he's speaking to people who know nothing about anything, and then he's like, oh, well, that you should tell them that we don't poskin like that we poskin like this. When was the last time that you ever heard Tovia Singer use the word poskin? Or Michael Skoback? Now, clearly, Tovia Singer is a lot more educated than David Katz, in terms of even experience, at least. Okay, it's just sort of, there's a fakeness to it that
Is it? Is
yes,
it fake? Really? Why?
It's because it's not done. It seems like he's trying to bagel the audience. Like, look how Jewish I am, and using all these words, right? When the average person doesn't even know what he's saying. They have to ask, what does sugya mean? What does this? Instead of just saying, this portion says this, or this segment says this. The sugya, and he even has videos like making fun. He has a picture like of the Vilna Gaon, and then he automatically turns into like an old Yiddish guy in Shabbos and Noach, and it's like he's taking this like a joke. So you've seen these videos, correct?
I edited almost all of them.
All right, yeah. You don't think that's a little weird, or that he suddenly changes his voice and he tries to sound like an old man?
No, he's I guess he is yeshivish. I mean, he tells you that straight up front. He's not trying to be something he's not.
Yeah, but someone who's yeshiva that
I
make
took it
videos
as,
like that.
he's
You know,
I took it as an emulation. I didn't see it as a mocking, and he's giving you straight Vilna Gaon stuff. He's not.
right, yeah, but he's changing his voice.
He's not elaborating on it. He's reading it straight. Maybe that's how he hears it in his head when he reads it.
Have you ever heard any lecture online of anyone doing that?
I've never heard you do it. No.
No, anyone else. You know, any rabbi do that. Like suddenly out of nowhere.
A lot of rabbis do a lot of stupid stuff.
Yeah, but that's weird.
It might be to Jews, but to a non-Jew, when he does change that, he's hearkening back, you know, to the, you know,
That's weird.
I never took it as a, you know, it's something that made me smile. Actually, I never took it as a negative thing.
It's wacky. I'm not saying it's negative. It's kind of silly. You know,
it might be.
I encourage everyone to go to his channel, Soul Mazel, and just pick any video that has the picture like of a rabbi on it, and then he changes his voice. It's like he's trying, like in Mamish, and it's just like, who the heck talks? Well, yeshivish guys don't talk like this. You know, maybe like a Rosh Hashiva who just came from Europe, you know, like 50 years ago, you know, like after the Holocaust, like he may have spoke like that. People don't talk like that nowadays in yeshiva, and for sure not the yeshiva that he works in. You know, because he works like in a Baal Tshuva yeshiva. I think he works in Shalom Rav, which is the one in Sfat. All right, I'm just saying it's just sort of like weird. It's just weird.
Might be. But he's got a couple of bestsellers out there. I mean, it's
World of the Gear is not a bestseller. You know,
I would say that I don't know, man. I
would think the World of the Gear is a bestseller, honestly.
At the time it came out, it was like what was it? Oh shite.
I doubt he sold more than 1,000 copies of that.
The Chaim Chlorphine and that one book, World of the Gear, did something. It was it did get a rush for a month. It got a rush of copies, and
how much? Like 500?
Oh no, it surprised everybody, and it actually caused a division between the two authors in the end. That's why it's a great book, because you're never going to get anything like it ever, and nobody ever addresses. It's not the Noahide over here on the other side of the Jordan, on the other side of the nation, on the other side of the friggin' planet. It was the ones who draw near. And it was the perception, you know, it's kind of like the giraffe thing. Where's the proper way to, you know, to check a giraffe? Really, you know, and he teaches, and the idea of this, and why I think it's important, and why I think it trumps Noahidism, is because, one, it's rabbinical. There's actually a ger toshav in halakha, and there's a ger in the Bible. There's a Noahide nowhere, and Ben Noach is Japheth, Chaim, and what's his name? Shem, obviously. So in others, you know, there's no, at least the ger toshav is there. But what is the ger toshav? It's someone that comes near to Israel, not someone way over there that we're sending, you know, smoke signals or a telegraph or whatever. This is someone who, you know, and it's the idea that if you want to be close to God, you have to be close to her, to his bride, to Israel.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that.
It kind of does. Jethro, Naaman, or at least Naaman back with him.
Nowhere does it. There's no commentator that I'm aware of that ever calls Jethro a ger toshav.
No. He's called a convert.
Okay, all right. You know, so that's a different thing.
The ger draws near. The ger's in the Bible. The ger's with Israel, not on the other side. He's not independent of, which so many, you could be an atheist. The Noahide nation's bit. You could be on, you don't have to give a shit about a Jew or anything in the law. You don't have to worry about Torah. You don't have to worry about any of what those rabbis.
Not according to the Torah.
The Noahide law, the Noahide thing. It's about being way over there and being.
Yeah, but if you're not in the Torah covenant, you're ultimately not important to God.
If you, yeah,
According to the
and if you're
Torah.
not anywhere near, if you're not going to the Israelite, if you're not going to the Jews, let's just get straight up. If you're
No,
not,
you have to become in the covenant. The word Jew doesn't exist. You're either in the
right,
covenant or you're not
I
in the
say
covenant.
Israelite, but I'm going modern terms because we don't have 10 tribes, yada yada. We can argue that. Go to the Jews. You have to go to Israel. You have to go to Torah and those who have it, and not. You're gonna. I mean, there are crazy folks like the rest of us. They're human, but you're going to get something better from a Jewish rabbi.
No,
Then you're
screw
going to get
that.
some guy on Daystar.
No, screw the rabbi. Here, look.
But what are we supposed to? Who are we supposed to learn from? Who are we supposed to ask questions?
Right now, you.
I'm not looking
This is
for
almost like an altar call.
as a
This is
teacher.
almost like an altar call, right? According to the Torah, but the Torah didn't say go to people for them to teach you. All Torah wants you to do is accept commandments like the Hebrews and the mixed multitude accept the commandments. That's all you got to do. And you're automatically in the covenant. I mean, it's quite amazing. You're not in the children of Israel. You're not part of Israel yet, but you're in the covenant. Okay. You know, that's all. You will be blessed. Okay. You could keep laws. And it even appears in the Talmud of someone converting himself amongst the nations, right? Entering the covenant from amongst the nations. Fine. Amazing. Right. That's it. You are in the covenant. Like, you're not part of Israel. But like you said, who gives a crap about Israel? We care about Torah. Okay. Now, like, if you ever want to enter the people of Israel, they've developed checks and balances for you to enter. It's called a conversion. Awesome. You're already circumcised because that's part of the covenant. Okay. But they require the Korban, that we need a temple for that. So it says in the Talmud that you put aside, 4 denarim for when the temple is, built, for you to bring that, and immersion is required from the rabbis. And that's it. Don't keep yourself outside of the covenant when you're already, you believe it already. You've internalized it. Just claim it.
How do you get guidance in the
YouTube.
world without the rabbis?
YouTube. Forget the word rabbi. Okay, there's enough
Teachers.
people out there.
And I don't want to, because when we say rabbi, I think a lot of people are going to think the rector or the priest or the pastor. That's not what a rabbi is. When I say rabbi, I'm thinking honestly, straight up teacher. So to those listening, my Christian friends who might be listening or whatever, if you're interested, when I say a rabbi, you go to him as a professor of the Torah. He studied enough, and his peers have said he knows enough about this to teach you. That's all that it means. But so yeah, this is all. I just want to make sure. Yeah, this is like kung fu. You go to the master to learn kung fu. If you're going to go to a rabbi, you're there to learn from him as a student. And I got another thing about the elevation of the rabbi, but that's a whole different question. I mean, interrupt you. I got to keep talking. I heard I dropped an F-bomb on your channel, and everyone had its pads.
It's that we live in the real world. There's a lot of people. Look at Tony Robbins. That he spoke about why he curses now so much in his things, because that's how you get thoughts across, and you exclaim your severity on what you're saying. Because it wakes people up. It's like, whoa, he just said an F-bomb. What he's saying must have more substance than like if he didn't say it.
I got to get this off because this is personally bugging me, and I want your opinion on this. We're going to go off topic completely. Why is it wrong to have chicken in a cream sauce? I thought the Torah said you don't see the child, you don't see the kid in its mother's milk, and the rabbis have put a fence on that, completely separating milk and dairy altogether for a certain amount of time. But now I'm told. And someone made a crack joke because I had a recipe that had a cream sauce with chicken in it, and that it's unkosher. And I'm like, okay, the Bible recognizes kinds because we hear each kind after its kind in the Torah in Genesis. So we know that God recognizes kinds. It would seem to me that when it said a kid in its mother's milk, it's speaking of a specific kind of thing. Why is chicken? Why am I getting a little bit of ribbing?
It's not for the Torah. It's clear in the Rambam whether this was a later prohibition, lest someone came to confuse beef with or like red meat with fowl.
So this isn't in the Talmud. This hasn't been ruled on. This hasn't been.
No, it is in the Talmud, but it's a much, much later prohibition. There's actually a rabbi in the Talmud that his community did eat poultry with milk. His name was Yossi HaGalili. So it show and there's even debates amongst my friends that this wasn't a widespread prohibition, and it didn't really stick, right? But because it appears in the Rambam like a law, people hold it like a law. But clearly in the Talmud, where there were communities that ate poultry with milk. So I mean, it's a rabbinic law, So which makes you, I mean, honestly, because there's a question about it, it doesn't really, it's really up to you. Like if you want to keep it. We have a principle in Judaism that says that Safek derabanan lehakel. When there's a question on a rabbinic command, we're commanded to be lenient in its execution. Now, there's a big question on this because in the Talmud it talks about it being allowed. But in the same Talmud, it talks about it also being prohibited. So the understanding is that his community that wasn't privy to that information till I guess till he was dead or whatever. So it's a fence. It's clearly a fence.
Okay. I didn't think I was violating anything because the language is very specific in the Torah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also rabbinic. Like if you would eat a cheeseburger, that, although, I mean, the average Jew will be like, oh, well, that's from the Torah. It's really like from the rabbis as a fence as well. Because the law, and there's many rabbis who teach this, that the law is that you shouldn't boil a kid in its mother's milk, right? So if you're eating a cheeseburger, the cow that produced that piece of cheese, well, the chances of it being the mother of the cow that became your hamburger is kind of slim.
I'm also wondering, is buttermilk? Would you feed the kid butter? Would you feed this kid cheese? Would that work to a newborn, lamb? Just give it cheese. It's the same thing, is it?
For what? I mean, so why would you feed a kid anything?
Milk. That's what I'm asking. Is cheese milk? I mean, can we really call butter milk when we deliberately extract most of it? I know it's dairy, and I understand the fence because we don't want to come anywhere near violating the prohibition of boiling a kid in its mother's milk. So we separate it completely. Fine, I have no problem with that. But can we really call cheese milk? Did they even have cheese 3,000 years ago?
I mean, it's two different words in Hebrew. It's gavina is cheese.
Biblical?
I don't know. I mean, you're biblical for sure. Chalav is milk.
Okay.
Right, but I can't think of cheese in biblical language. I mean, that's like modern Hebrew.
So I wonder that, but no, that when they included chicken, I thought, okay, that's just stupid.
Right, because chickens don't lactate.
Every kind by its kind. God recognizes how things work in nature, and it's we're not gonna have chicken in there either. Why not? Well, we don't want to. No, 2 fences. I don't know if that's enough. I just think that's
no, but it's rabbinic anyways. I mean, even if you think about it, not boiling a kid in his mother's milk, that, although they claim it's a Torah law, it's really a rabbinic law. Okay, anyone who would have read that, at least in this generation, without any commentator, would not conclude that means that you can't eat dairy with meat. Okay, so it's ultimately a rabbinic understanding. Regardless, if you submit yourself to rabbinic law, you must keep it. Okay. Now, if the whole chicken part, I have no problem with people, I mean, they'd be going against the Rambam, but it seems that, at least according to the Talmud itself, who gives us the principle, to question and to be lenient on rabbinic laws, that there's evidence of at least one rabbi who ate it and whose community ate it. So I don't, I've spoken to rabbis about this, from my camp. They told me the same thing, that they don't think it's a real prohibition.
Okay. I
But
didn't think so either, but I was just getting some flack and had to confirm from my personal.
yeah,
Hannah, before we end the live portion tonight, Hannah, how are you? Is there
Good, and you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. Anything you want to add to the conversation? Because you haven't stopped talking all night. So I figured I'd let you talk one last. No.
Well, actually, I did have a question for Rabbi Asher.
Go for it.
Earlier, you just said that ultimately, if you're not in the covenant, God does not really care about you. Can you clarify that?
I mean, I painted with a very broad brush. Okay, I mean, it says in the prophet, he says otherwise. That I think it's in Amos that he says that the Jews shouldn't be the only, shouldn't think that God didn't redeem other people, right? And he speaks about the Ethiopians. I don't know, we don't have a history of that, but he does speak about also elsewhere that he even receives praise from other nations who offer sacrifices to their idols, or thinking that it's an idol, but it's really going to him, right? It says, as the sun rises, as the sun sets, my name is great amongst the nations. Yeah, so, I mean, but at least according to the 5 books of Moses, I mean, God makes no covenant directly with other nations. Now, I believe that God cares about other nations and used the Jewish people, or those of Hebrew stock, starting with Abraham, to be a light to these other nations. In other words, God implanted the light within us, not to keep it amongst ourselves, but to share it, right? This is why even all the rabbis teach that the vast majority of people who stood on Mount Sinai were of non-Hebrew stock, that the mixed multitude outnumbered those who were born Hebrews. So which shows that God doesn't ultimately care about who your mother is or what you did in the past, but what you're willing to do in the future, right? So, and also, don't forget, I mean, Abraham also wasn't from a prestigious pedigree, right? But it's a slippery slope nowadays, because Gentile nowadays doesn't mean immoral person, but in Torah times it did. Just because your citizenship was your religion and your king was your God, and pagan gods would behave worse than people. So if people were in some way emulating those gods or trying to appease those gods, it would be hard not to practice immoral behavior. Okay, but nowadays, I think God ultimately cares how you behave, and doesn't care so much about your intentions. I mean, I made a whole video that Christians, right? I mean, people that the average Jew would consider idolaters, actually keep more commandments than not just the average Noahide, but the average Jew. Because there's a lot more Christians than there are Jews, right? And these are people who that walk around thinking that they're not under any law, but are adamant not to break any commands that Jesus told over. So nowadays, but to say that God only cares about Jews nowadays, I've never got Jews nowadays are typically not religious. Like probably 10% of born Jews keep Torah, right? I think the latest poll was that 54% of ethnic Jews are atheists. So God cares about how you behave.
Wheat from the chaff.
Right, and this is why I proselytize and I encourage people to become Jewish, because I see that within every Gentile, I see like a Jew, like fighting to get out. You know what I mean? And when I say a Jew, it's not someone who acts like a Jew or looks like a Jew. Someone who wants to keep Torah, who wants to do the right thing. And that's ultimately what it boils down to: who wants to do the right thing, who doesn't care about doing the right thing, and who has the instructions, and who wants to keep those instructions for himself when the whole world is collapsing around him. And I mean, that's pretty much the story of all Jews today, right? I mean, they think that Torah is just for them, and Gentiles could go fly a kite or keep 7 laws, but they have to keep 613, right? You honor your parents, fight evil. Oh, that's too sophisticated for the Gentile mind, right? So you just try to live by 7 laws like a caveman. So I mean, that's what I mean.
Give up the 7 laws and
Okay.
give up, or embrace the 7 plus, and get away from your idol. All I know is that modern Christianity has led to a crap criminal and justice system that had to snap before it got any better. We pervert the food supply, and we aren't a peaceful people. We're not.
You're saying every Gentile is a Christian. I mean, Bible practicing Christian. It's just like
it's the whole. I mean, the Christians are the most persecuted in the world. I'm not here to persecute a Christian, but if you really want to know what's going on and why, maybe you need to wake up a little bit. Maybe there is some Torah that you wipe your ass with, because they do. When you come in here and you say that the Jews are wrong and I don't have to keep the law, but yet I'm the chosen people of God. You're spitting in God's eye is what you're doing. You're spitting in God's eye. And if you curse Israel, you're going to be cursed. There's a reason why God made them a nation. You can't flattering God is not blessing Israel. Flattering Israel, isn't blessing Israel. Trying to emulate Israel is complimentary. It's the highest form of flattery, but you're flattering. I mean, complimentary. You know what I mean? That's what you're doing out there when you're trying to pretend to be Jews. You're not getting it. If you're going to bless Israel, bless her for her sake, for God's sake.
Okay, I have another question. So
what country are you from?
What country am I from?
Yep.
Originally?
Yeah.
I'm actually French originally, but right now I'm in Canada.
Vive la liberté.
Merci, vive la liberté.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, in English, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So I was going to say, so when the Torah says that you should not worship anything that's in the form of what's found in the heavens or on earth or in the seas, doesn't that point that Christians are idolaters if they're worshiping a man?
No. So the accepted opinion.
I mean, because I want to say, I can't say this. If you're actually got a physical image that you have made that was made with human hands, and you bow down to it, that's a blatant violation of the second commandment. If you claim to believe in the God of Israel,
right.
But yeah, that's pretty spelled out. If you're doing that, you got problems. Go ahead. That's what I think. I'll let the rabbi talk here.
So I think that's the key point there. If you claim to believe in the God of Israel, the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20, was given to a people who were about to enter a covenant with God, right? So God was giving over the details of this covenant. The covenant is ultimately the agreement to keep these laws, right? But these laws weren't given to people who didn't accept them. So the rabbis teach outside of the Rambam, because the Rambam teaches that all Christians are idolaters. Ashkenazi Judaism teaches, right? It started by the Tosfos and the Ramah, ran with it, that Christianity, what they call shituf, like partnerships, that Gentiles are not prosecuted if they have partnerships. In other words, like they're allowed to have partnerships in their God. Saying that God has a son, a mother, a father, whatever. And that's even a stricter interpretation, because they still acknowledge that a Gentile has to at least believe in the God of Israel, but he's able to sort of split them up into parts. But I'm just saying that to teach you that according to the plain text in the Torah, those are commandments for people who are about to enter the covenant, right? I mean, he never said no living person or what every living person has to keep my laws, right? Because if that's the case, then I mean, technically, that we should be rushing and like knocking on people's doors, like for them to keep the Torah, because God that requires it of everyone, right? So clearly, God doesn't require everybody to be Jewish. However, like if you want a relationship with God, if you want to worship the God of Israel properly, you have to keep all His commandments. But He's not forcing you to. So technically, a Gentile is allowed to be an idolater if he wants nothing to do with the God of Israel, right? I mean, if you don't believe in the God of Israel, then why would you even care about heaven or hell? Right? Not that the Torah talks about heaven or hell, but with this notion that Gentiles are adjudicated by a standard that's taught, that was delivered by a God that they don't really believe in, and they're expected to adhere to the standard. It doesn't, like, you don't have to keep anything, right? Now, like, if you actually care what this God has to say, it would behoove you to keep all his commandments. So it's right. So I think the answer to your question is the 10 commandments are, well, literally the 10 statements weren't given to Gentiles. They were only given to Jews. Because if that's the case, then Gentiles also have to keep the Sabbath, right? Because it says, so it right, but this is why the rabbis are adamant about the 7 laws, which don't include the Sabbath and don't include, like, more than half of all the commandments that appear in the 10 commandments or 10 statements, whatever.
But it seems that God did care about what people worshipped who were not part of Israel. Like when he talked about the 7 Canaanite nations, and he was not pleased because they were practicing necromancy, sorcery, and other such things. So
Right.
it does seem like he did care.
Well, that's because in the book of Numbers, he says that you're entering a land that devours its inhabitants. So it's not necessarily that they did these things, or then he wouldn't be focusing just on 7 Canaanite nations. Is that the 7 Canaanite nations were inhabiting Israel. So in other words, like, nowhere does it say that outside of these nations, that God wiped them out, at least in Torah, whether he wiped them out for behaving in such a manner. So in other words, he says anyone who's going to live in the land of Israel has to keep my commandments, all of them. So now, with a resident alien is just he's not a citizen. He's just a resident. He's just there, like, residing, but he's not really counted amongst God's covenantal people. So, right,
He'd be the congregation of Jacob and not the stock of Jacob.
Yeah,
it'd be those who convene with the stock of Jacob, who are friendly enough to live with them, whereas the no-Cree is just friendly enough to do business. But you don't want him to stick around. You know what I mean? He's got great silk, and he's a good businessman, but he's going to go away. The Ger Toshav is the guy who actually is tolerable enough that he can stick around.
Right. So the issue with the 7 Canaanite nations was because they were in the land of Israel, and only because they were in the land of Israel. So this is why this whole notion that the land of Israel belonged to the Jews, right? There's stickers that says what the land of Israel belongs to Jews is not true. The land of Israel belongs to whoever keeps Torah. That's it. It belongs to them. In other words, he also calls Jews Gerim. It says that, you're Gerim in my land. In other words, you're strangers in my land. And so if that you're in that land, you have to keep Torah.
You will obey.
Right. So Rashi says that it's called Eretz Canaan because, Canaan, a Canaani in Hebrew is like a merchant, because the job of Jews was to sell monotheism from that land, and it was really an illustration of the tent of Abraham.
That's awesome.
Right? So the tent of Abraham was placed, or at least according to the Medrash, it was placed in a strategic spot where people would be forced to walk through it. It was, placed in like a barren land where there was no food, where people would cross, be forced to enter his tent, eat food, bless God, and in turn be blessed, because he wouldn't let people eat food unless they bless God. So the understanding is that that's why God gave the land of Israel. The land of Israel, at least back then, was the center of the world, right? But this is how people entered. They entered through the Mediterranean, and it was the gateway from the west to the east, and from Africa going up to Mesopotamia.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone had to cross through this little piece of land, and hear the word of God and be blessed, right? And spread with the whole notion, right? But outside of the whole story of Nineveh, and of course that's not in the Torah, which I think is more of a parable, right? I don't think anyone is familiar with the great Noahide king of your Babylon.
Right? We're all Noahide kings. We're all
right.
Noahide.
Right. It's just a parable. All these things I don't really think happened. Right, because that shows an instance that God did care what they were doing, right? But I'm not about to build doctrine on what they did there, because we don't know exactly what they did. So,
Hey, Wade, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing good, man. How you doing, James?
Theme of tonight is Jesus Christ, dead on arrival. Which, at least acknowledges he exists. It's about the missionary work that's being done to infect Jews. I mean, there was an article John posted up earlier or we were talking about an article where there was a couple going around dressed as Jews. They had the tzitzit, they had the yarmulke, they had the woman was dressed modestly. They were in black, the whole 9 yards, dressed as Jews, going around trying to convert Jews about Jesus. We got people dressing up as Jews and pretending to be Jews on YouTube and on Daystar. You got a Messianic Jew over there. My oldest friend called me today at work because he was so freaked out after all I've been trying to tell him. And here's this guy on Daystar, and I'm like, dude, nobody pays attention to him. Don't worry, he's a clown. That's all he is. I was a better clown than him.
Gay Star? What is it? I'm kidding.
So they name it after Lucifer. Isn't that interesting? So wait, that's the title of this, and it was supposed to be, and we've gotten very compassionate, but it really is. It's you have to draw a line. There's a difference between the idol and the man, and the religion and what God says. That's the theme of tonight. Yeah, I'm sure you saw it in the caption. Anything you want to add to it before we shuffle off the air eventually?
It sounds like y'all got it going on pretty nice, man.
Oh, you were Christian?
Yeah, I was Christian.
Or what? Any advice juxtaposed? Because I know you're not a Judaism guy, but you acknowledge Torah. You seem to acknowledge God's word at face value. Any advice you might want to give Christians that might have stuck around this long? They're the most persecuted people on the planet right now. Okay, I'm not fond of that. I do think that justice is blind sometimes, and when it happens on this big of a scale, I think God is trying to tell us something. I personally believe it's because they're not keeping the Torah. They're not even keeping 7 laws with the justice system, the way we treat animals, and the idolatry issue. That's my thing.
A lot of things I feel is that a lot of times I'm not welcomed anywhere, and sometimes I want to turn my back on all of it. If you don't do this, if you don't do that, if you're not a Jew, or if you're not trying to become, Judaism, or if you're not a Noahide, there's always someone lined up to tell you how shitty you are. So, I'm glad I came out of Christianity. I just hate that
you're alone.
It is a lonely thing. It is absolutely a lonely thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wish that every secular Jew, like if he's not going to become Jewish, right? If he's not going to act like a Torah Jew, he's not going to keep God's commandments. I wish they would all convert to Christianity, right? So I wish Christian missionaries much success with the those who are not convertible, right? Because I'd rather like a religious Christian, an ethical Christian, who, I mean, it's not a coincidence that the average Orthodox Jew shares the same values, ethical, moral values, with the average Christian, okay? Not the average atheist. So the last thing we need is more atheistical Jews. And I've heard rabbis argue with me on this, that they prefer a Jew be atheist than Christian, which is stupid, right? I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, the reason people hate Jews are not because they're religious, right? Or not because they have great views.
All the ones that give Jews a bad name are self-hating,
right, like George Soros guys,
Feinstein.
So like much success to the Christians who are able to reach secular Jews that born Jews cannot reach, right? And I don't think even Judaism is equipped to accept newcomers as it exists today. Okay, so it's easier to win a Christian over to Judaism than it is to win an atheist over to Judaism. So let them win them to Christianity, and then once they're Christian, I'll debate them and I'll try to bring them back. Okay, but this whole notion that better an atheist than a Christian, this is why. When's the last time that you heard a rabbi come out against atheism or a secularism in the Jewish world? Never. Christianity all the time. You're an idolater, you're this. Oh, you're an atheist? Oh, I know how you feel, right? I mean, this is what they'll tell them. Are you kidding me? This is the biggest jokers out there. That we have to call things what they are. People who do good deserve to be treated good. Okay, and I mean, she didn't, like the guts some Noahide has to call a Christian an idolater, worshiping a guy in a stick. And these guys do a lot of good. Okay, and within every Christian,
but they do a lot of bad. They allow a lot of bad. The electric chair.
No, but that's not Christians. That's the thing. Oh, wait.
Well, where do you think they came from? I mean, America's mostly Christians, Christian churches. There's a church on every corner here.
Yeah, but that's like you lumping secular Jews in with religious Jews. Right? There's,
Well, in Christian, I mean, I got to look at what they produce. At least when the Jews got together, they could farm. Even the Christians screwed that up in the 20th century.
I don't think the electric chair is such a bad thing.
You don't think so? What does the Torah prescribe? Does it say that you can just torture the guy for a minute and a half?
Only in the land of Israel, though.
You behead them, you stone them, or you suffocate them, you strangle them, you hang them.
I'd rather be electrocuted than strangled.
I don't know. I don't know. Cruel and unusual punishment. Our food supply is tainted. We've tainted the nature. The teachings that it's not enough. It's just not enough. There was never, Christians never had the stringency of law, and the idea that you could be killed for doing a bad thing. Now anything goes. They got 1,000 Christian churches and billions of dollars wrapped up in a calamity. I think they yes, I recognize the blessing, but that's only because the Jewish part of their Bible when they began to read it. But even then, they ignore it. I don't know, man. I look at Europe and I think, what a dump. I look at us, I'm like, what is?
Well, Europe is not Christian. We are the last best hope because we're Christian, right? Or at least we as a nation, right? I mean, not Catholic, but Protestant. Right. I mean, I'm not talking about. I mean, those in Congress, at least on the Democratic side, are not Christian.
We need to kick it up a notch, Christians. Your secular humanism is growing and Islam's outgoing. You guys on getting converts like nothing else.
It's those in the Bible Belt who are fighting against this whole late-term abortion craze. I mean, it's not
Catholic time, but who started it? Where did it come from? And why haven't they done nothing for 80 years? It's because they're a bunch of lazy punks who don't think that law matters. Well, it does. God gives you a law for a reason. You can't just write it off. I know you want to go by Jesus, and Jesus gives you some of the law, but you don't. I don't know. I guess I'm a little worried for him. I'm a worrier. My mom is a worrier. I'm a worrier too. Anybody, Rosalie, before we get off of here, any final words?
Shabbat shalom.
Oh, well, that's easy. Aaron, anything else before we get off of here?
Well, I would say that Christianity beats up a lot of its people, and I think when those that are in it or those that have left it need to find their confidence in some fashion. If you've left it, find the confidence in yourself to go what you want to, go for what you want to go for. Don't accept something subpar.
What you want to go for? Does that mean just follow your ego? I mean,
on some level, we have to have bigger egos. We have to think more highly of ourselves. You leave the Torah. You leave the church because of the Torah to follow after God, and then you stop short because you no longer think that you can do what you did. And in my opinion, it's a thing that Christians have inside of them, where they debase every individual to be such a lowly person that you almost can't ever think highly of yourself, and it causes people that leave Christianity to stop short, to stop at Noahidism, to stop somewhere where they didn't leave Christianity, to end up alone and wandering and in the halfway house. I would encourage them to just keep going and to find that that ego, that explosion within themselves that, got them out. And for the Christians that are out there, for them to find their own ego and get back to their fundamental values and stand up and holler, don't let the abortionists have their way for 80 years. Say no from go after them with fervor, and you'll find yourselves through trouble, pain, strife, and at the end of the day in a much better place where you had within you the thing that you were created, the drive that you had. Go after it. Don't let anybody put it out.
Oh man, I argue with that. All right, we're going to cut the live feed now. The Orphans of Avraham on Facebook. Please join us if you like what we're talking about here. It's not always a time to bash. We're not bashing, but Michelangelo said that here I'm talking about man-made sculptures. Here I go. Okay, but you're going to get my drift here. Michelangelo said I don't sculpt it. I just remove part of the marble that doesn't need to be there to get the image across. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do here. There's a lot of zhush. I could criticize any religion on here. I could criticize Buddhists easily. I spent a lot of time, figuratively, in the East. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. I wouldn't make this hangout like this if I wasn't, one, concerned for Israel, because I don't like people imitating them and going out there and trying to divert people from Torah in the name of Torah. I don't like that. It happens. Even we even have a few Jews who do it. It happens. We're human. I'm against it, flat out. It's all about the Torah. If I know you believe in God, I know Christians believe in God, and they know something is at work here. And I know that we want to flatter Israel and we want to pretend and we want to, but you really need to humble yourselves, because when you go to the Jews as a humble man, you're not going to be overlorded by them. Trust me. If you're really serious about God, God's going to find you. And it won't be about the rabbis. All the rabbi do as a teacher, he's going to guide you on how to look up stuff, where to, a reading schedule. Here's some commentary that would, that's good. That's good. You need that. But I wouldn't. The problem is we don't want to create a new religion. If we're going to build a better world, if we're going to make this a better world, we're all going to have to look to Zion in the end, I think. And what does Zion have? It's not Zion that's special. It's the Torah. And God happened to give it to Zion. God happened to give it to the Jewish people. It's a package deal. But the end game is Torah. Put down the idol. Just put him down and go to God. If you don't believe me, I'm going to give you a challenge that Doreen Dotan gave. I know everyone thinks she's crazy, and I love her. Ask God yourself. Christians, ask God yourself. Straight up say, and talk to God. Don't worry about an image or somebody. Just for once in your life, talk to God directly. Do you really want me to have this man as an intermediary? Is he actually my God? Do I worship him? Am I going to him? And I think you're going to be surprised with what God gives you in response. I'm going to leave it there. 9:35. We got 2.5 hours. I'm out of here. Orphans of Avraham on Facebook, and we're here every Thursday. James the Adult Smasher at gmail.com is my email if you want to get in touch with me and join the group if you like. We do this every Thursday. It's a roundtable informal discussion, normally a Parsha study as well as anything Torah and Judaism. Please come back. Thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Aaron, Rabbi Asher Mesa, Hannah, Rosalie, Wade, Yochanan, and everybody in the Nexus and beyond, Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.